My name's Ethan Carter, I'm 30 years old, and I tied the knot last summer in what I thought would be the pinnacle of my life. A day etched in memory for its joy, love, and the presence of everyone who mattered. A day you'd reminisce about decades later, surrounded by grandkids, laughing over old photos. For a few fleeting moments, it was exactly that. My bride, Sophie, glowed like something out of a fairy tale. Our friends filled the venue with warmth, and the music carried us into what should have been pure bliss. But every time my gaze drifted to the rows of empty chairs reserved for my family, a quiet, gnawing ache settled in my chest like a weight I couldn't shake. Here's the gut punch. Not a single member of my family showed up. Not my mom, Diane, who always had a knack for making me feel like an afterthought. Not my dad, Richard, whose silence spoke louder than words. Not my younger sister, Ava, the golden child who could do no wrong. And not even my best friend, Jake Russo, who I'd known since we were 12, trading baseball cards and sneaking beers behind his dad's garage. Instead, they were all at Ava's engagement party, scheduled, unbelievably, on the exact same day as my wedding. Ava had known my date for 9 months. We'd announced it at a family dinner, picked the venue, sent save the dates. Yet 2 months before my wedding, her glossy, gold-embossed invites went out, featuring her and her fiancé, Logan, posing in a vineyard at sunset, all dreamy smiles and professional lighting. When I sent my own invitations, simple, elegant, with a touch of Sophie's artistic flair, I got back half-hearted replies. Mom texted, "We'll try to make it work, honey." Dad sent a single heart emoji a week later, like I'd asked him to grab coffee, not attend my wedding. I told myself I was overreacting. Ava had always been the star of the Carter family. Growing up, she got the bigger bedroom, the brand new SUV for her 16th birthday, the all-expenses-paid trip to Europe after graduation. I got a handshake and a "you'll figure it out." I was used to being the shadow to her spotlight, but I'd convinced myself my wedding would be different. Surely, this one day would be mine. 2 weeks before the big day, I called Mom to confirm their travel plans. She hesitated, a long, uncomfortable pause that made my stomach twist. "Ethan, about your wedding, Ava's engagement party is the same day. It's going to be tough to do both." I laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound, thinking she was pulling my leg. She wasn't. "You're not coming?" I asked, my voice cracking in a way that made me feel small. "Logan's family is flying in from California," she said, as if that justified everything. "It's a rare chance to have everyone together." "My wedding is a rare chance," I said, gripping the phone. "It's my one wedding," she sighed like I was asking her to move mountains. "You'll understand when you have kids, Ethan. We can't split ourselves in two." I hung up without another word, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped my phone. I didn't tell Sophie right away. She was so excited, planning every detail with this infectious energy, and I didn't want to taint it with my family's nonsense. The days that followed were a blur of awkward conversations. One by one, family members called with flimsy excuses. Aunt Linda had a work conflict. Uncle Tom was under the weather. My cousin Mia, the only one who ever seemed to see through the family's facade, sent a long text apologizing but didn't commit to showing up. And then Jake, my best man, the guy I'd planned to stand beside me, called the night before the wedding. "Man, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice low. "Ava's party is a big deal. I can't miss it. You get it, right?" I didn't get it. I didn't say anything, just hung up and stared at the wall, feeling the ground shift under me. The wedding day arrived, bright and warm, with a clear blue sky that felt like a cruel contrast to the storm in my chest. I walked down the aisle with a smile plastered on my face, the kind you wear when you're trying not to crack. Sophie was breathtaking, her dress catching the light as she moved, her eyes locked on mine with a love that made the hurt fade, if only for a moment. Our friends filled the venue with laughter, cheering louder than I expected, as if they knew they needed to make up for the absence. For a few hours, I could almost pretend everything was perfect. But at the reception, as we stood together cutting the cake, my phone started buzzing. A text from Mom. "Ethan, we need to talk, it's urgent." Then the calls began pouring in, 47 in less than an hour, lighting up my screen like a warning signal. I froze, the cake knife heavy in my hand, the chatter and clinking glasses around me fading into a dull hum. Sophie noticed, her hand brushing mine. "What's wrong?" she whispered. I couldn't answer, my eyes glued to the screen, my heart pounding. What could be so urgent that Mom, who couldn't bother to show up, needed me now? Then came a text from Mia, my cousin who always seemed to know more than she let on. "You won't believe what's happening here. Call me when you can, but don't tell anyone I reached out." I didn't respond immediately. I didn't want to pull Mia into whatever drama was unfolding, but my gut screamed it was tied to Ava's party. I slipped outside during a lull in the reception, the summer air cool against my skin, the music muffled behind the heavy doors. I called Mia. She picked up on the first ring, her voice low, like she was hiding in a corner. "Ethan, they're talking about you. They're saying you picked your wedding date to upstage Ava's engagement. Your mom's telling everyone you did it on purpose." I felt the air leave my lungs. "That's insane." I set my date 9 months ago before she even got engaged. I know, Mia said, her voice urgent. But they're spinning it like you're the selfish one. Your dad's telling Logan's family you've grown distant, so it's no surprise they didn't come. And Jake, he's going around saying he couldn't be your best man because you were impossible about the guest list, like you didn't even want him there. My mouth went dry. Jake, the guy who'd been there for every milestone, graduations, job promotions, late-night talks when life got heavy, was trashing me to strangers. Mia hesitated, then added, "And your mom's blowing up your phone because Ava's party hit a snag. The caterer messed up the order and they're short on food. They want you to call that restaurant you know downtown and pull some strings." The sheer audacity hit me like a slap. They skipped my wedding, left me to celebrate alone, and now, in the middle of my reception, they expected me to fix Ava's crisis. I wanted to march back inside, toss my phone in the nearest fountain and forget them all. But the anger burned hotter than ever, a fire I hadn't felt before. This wasn't new, it was the same pattern my whole life. They'd hurt me, paint me as the problem, then come crawling when they needed something. And I'd always given in because they were family. But standing there with the faint sound of Sophie's laughter floating from the reception hall, something broke loose inside me. I didn't tell Sophie the full story that night. I didn't want to dim the light in her eyes, not when she was still floating from the day. But as we danced under the string lights, my phone kept buzzing. Mom, Dad, Ava, even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. By the time we got to our hotel suite, exhausted but still buzzing from the high of the day, I had 62 missed calls. The final voicemail from Mom made my blood boil. "Ethan, I don't know why you're ignoring us. Ava's party had a little issue and we need your help. Oh, and I let her wear Grandma's necklace tonight for something special. Don't make a big deal out of it, it's just jewelry." That's when the real betrayal sank in. Grandma's necklace wasn't just any trinket. It was a delicate gold chain with a diamond pendant, an heirloom passed down from my great-grandmother. When I was 20, right before Grandma passed, she'd taken me aside, her hands frail but steady, and said, "Ethan, this is for the woman you marry. I want her to wear it on your wedding day." She'd written it into her will, clear as day, and I'd seen the document myself when I helped sort her estate. When I asked Mom about it a few months before the wedding, she'd brushed me off, saying it was too fragile to wear, probably tucked away in her safe. Now Mia sent me a photo from Ava's party, and there it was, sparkling around Ava's neck, perfectly complementing her designer dress. In the background, Jake stood holding a champagne flute, grinning like he hadn't just stabbed me in the back. I showed Sophie the photo as we sat in our suite, the city lights glittering outside. Her face tightened, her eyes narrowing. "That's the necklace your grandma left for you." I nodded, my throat tight. Mom lied. She gave it to Ava. Sophie sank onto the bed, her hands clenching the edge of the mattress. "Ethan, that's not just disrespectful, that's theft." The next morning, we tried to salvage the post-wedding glow with breakfast at a quiet cafe by the lake. Sophie talked about the toasts, the way her dad had cried during his speech, but I could barely focus. My phone kept buzzing, 89 missed calls now, texts from relatives demanding I step up for Ava. Not one mentioned my wedding. I played another voicemail, this one from Dad, his voice sharp. "Ethan, this is ridiculous. Ignoring your family on a night like this is immature. Call your mother back and do the right thing." Do the right thing. As if they'd done right by me. I didn't cry, though the urge was there, bubbling under the surface. Instead, a cold resolve settled in, like a switch flipping. While Sophie napped that afternoon, I sat in the hotel's business center, my laptop open, and started saving everything. Every text, every voicemail, every photo Mia sent, backed up in a folder labeled proof. I pulled up a scanned copy of Grandma's will, stored on my cloud drive from years ago when I'd helped with her paperwork. There it was in black and white. "I bequeath my diamond pendant necklace to my grandson, Ethan Carter, for his bride to wear on their wedding day." Mom's lie wasn't just a betrayal, it was legally dubious. I didn't confront them. I knew how it would go. They'd twist it. Ethan's overreacting, Ethan's ungrateful, Ethan's causing drama. Instead, I poured my energy into what I could control. Sophie and I built our life, our way. We moved into a modern apartment downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the skyline. I threw myself into my job, a mid-level role at a tech startup specializing in data analytics. I took on every project no one else wanted, stayed late, and networked like my life depended on it. Within 4 months, I landed a deal with a major client, boosting our department's revenue by 35%. The CEO called me into his office, shook my hand, and promoted me to senior manager with a raise that made my head spin. I funneled that money into investments. I'd been dabbling in real estate since my mid-20s, but now I had the capital to go big. I bought 2 rental properties in up-and-coming neighborhoods, then a third in a prime downtown spot. By the end of the year, the passive income was enough to match my salary, and I was already eyeing a fourth. Sophie and I bought a house on the edge of the city, a sleek, sunlit place with a wraparound deck and a view of the river. We filled it with art she loved, furniture we picked together, and memories that didn't carry the weight of my family's baggage. Our social circle grew, too. Without my family's constant negativity, we made room for real connections, friends who showed up, who saw us for who we were. We hosted dinner parties, weekend trips to the coast, and even a charity auction for Sophie's nonprofit, which raised thousands for local schools. At one event, I overheard a guest say, "Ethan's killing it, great job, great wife, great life." I smiled to myself. They didn't know how much of that came from cutting out the people who'd spent years trying to dim my light. Mia kept me in the loop, her updates like dispatches from a war zone. Ava's wedding planning was a disaster, vendors dropping out, budgets ballooning, Logan's family clashing with Mom's perfectionism. My parents started grumbling about my distance, as if they hadn't chosen Ava's party over my wedding. Jake, meanwhile, acted like nothing had happened, showing up at family events with the same easy grin. I didn't engage. I didn't call them out. Silence was my weapon, starving their drama of oxygen. All the while, I kept building my case. Every text, every photo, every voicemail saved and organized. A year after my wedding, a national business magazine reached out. They wanted to feature me in a piece on young professionals achieving financial independence before 35. They flew me out for a photo shoot, my suit crisp against a city backdrop, and the interview covered my real estate ventures, my promotion, and the nonprofit work Sophie and I were doing. When the article hit stands, Mia texted me, "Your mom bought 5 copies. She's freaking out that it's really you." No one called to congratulate me. Just silence, the kind that reeks of bruised egos and unspoken envy. I didn't need their approval anymore, but I knew my success was setting the stage for something bigger. The turning point came 20 months after my wedding, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was at my desk, reviewing contracts for a commercial property I was buying, when Mia emailed me a bombshell. A scanned copy of the estate inventory from Grandma's will, signed by Mom. The necklace was listed with my name as the inheritor, but a handwritten note at the bottom read, "Loan to Ava Carter for temporary use, June 15, 2023. Temporary. That was the date of Ava's engagement party. Nearly 2 years later, the necklace was still with her. My pulse quickened. This wasn't just a family slight. It was a legal misstep. That same week, a colleague introduced me to a high-end event planner, Lauren, who casually mentioned booking a massive Carter wedding for the following spring. Ava's, set for a sprawling coastal estate, the kind you see in movies with media coverage, influencers, and a guest list packed with local bigwigs. I kept my face neutral, but my mind was racing. Lauren spilled details. Ava wanted a 6-figure budget, a custom gown, and a live band flown in from LA. The wedding was 6 months out, and it was going to be the Carter family's moment to shine. Or so they thought. I hired a lawyer, Daniel, a sharp, no-nonsense guy who specialized in estate disputes. I didn't want to sue yet, just prepare. He reviewed the will, the signed loan agreement, and my folder of evidence, texts, voicemails, photos. "You've got a rock-solid case," he said. "You can demand the necklace back, and if they resist, we can push for damages." I nodded but told him to hold off. Timing was everything. I started networking strategically, attending events where I knew my family's world overlapped. I shook hands with journalists who covered society weddings, venue owners, even a caterer tied to Ava's estate. I never mentioned her, just made sure I was a familiar face, a guy people liked and trusted. Mia called one night, her voice barely a whisper. "Mom's saying Ava's wearing the necklace at her wedding. She told everyone you don't care about family traditions anymore, so it's hers to keep." I thanked Mia and hung up, a plan crystallizing. The day of Ava's wedding was picture perfect, the kind of sunny, golden day photographers pray for. I wasn't invited, of course, but I was ready. Daniel delivered a formal demand letter to the venue at 2:45 p.m., right as guests started arriving for pre-ceremony cocktails. The letter cited the will, the loan agreement, and the legal consequences of withholding inherited property. It was addressed to the venue owner, the planner, and Ava herself, with a clear warning. The necklace couldn't be worn today. Mia's text came fast and furious. "Ava's losing it in the bridal suite. Mom's trying to say it's a misunderstanding, but the planner's freaking out about liability." The venue owner, not wanting a lawsuit, insisted Ava remove the necklace. The photographer scrapped the jewelry shots, and Ava walked down the aisle without it, her face tight in every candid photo. I didn't post anything, didn't gloat. I just waited. By evening, social media was buzzing. A journalist I'd tipped off, without giving the full story, posted a piece the next morning. The heirloom that stole the spotlight at the Carter wedding. It laid out the facts. Grandma's will, my name, the temporary loan, all backed by public records. It didn't vilify anyone, just let the truth speak. The necklace was back in my possession by night's end, delivered to Daniel in its velvet box. The fallout was swift. Local blogs picked up the story, and Ava's in-laws, who'd banked on a pristine family image, were livid about the public embarrassment. Mom and Dad turned on each other. Mom blaming Dad for not handling me, Dad blaming Mom for signing the loan agreement. Ava tried to spin it online, posting old photos of herself in the necklace with captions about family love over material things. The comments weren't kind. People tagged me saying things like, "Glad Ethan got what was his." Jake took a hit. 2 mutual friends dropped him after the article exposed his lies about my wedding. I didn't answer the flurry of calls from my parents. I didn't need to. The truth was out and their carefully curated image was crumbling. I cut contact, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to salvage. They'd made their choice when they skipped my wedding, when they gave Ava what was mine, when they tried to rewrite my story. On our first anniversary, Sophie and I went to a quiet dinner at a rooftop restaurant. She wore the necklace, the diamonds catching the candlelight, and it felt like a promise kept, not just to Grandma, but to ourselves. "It's home now," Sophie said, her hand brushing mine. I nodded, the ache in my chest finally gone. My family thought they could erase me from their narrative. I made sure the world saw theirs instead. And then I locked the door on them for good, no key left to find.